Have you ever felt like the whole world has turned its back on you? One day, you walk into the place you've spent your entire life building, a steaming cup of coffee in hand, only to hear the cold words, "We don't need you anymore." All those years of dedication, sleepless nights, and dreams you poured into your work, gone in a single moment. But what happens when the person pushed out of the game refuses to fall and instead rises to create a new empire, stronger than ever? This is the story of Sarah Mitchell, a woman who turned betrayal into a guiding flame. And trust me, you won't be able to take your eyes off this journey. Sarah Mitchell was once the heart of Harmony Enterprises, a giant in the media industry. But one fateful day changed everything. From brutal betrayal to triumphant victory, her story will move you. Join us as we explore this dramatic journey, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button to stay updated with inspiring stories like this one. Sarah Mitchell, 52, was the regional director for Europe and Asia at Harmony Enterprises, one of New York's leading media companies. With over 20 years of dedication, she transformed Harmony from a small advertising firm into a powerhouse in digital media, securing multi-million-dollar contracts with major corporations like Nova Media, Europe, Sakura Group, Japan, and Bella Moda, Italy. Sarah's success wasn't just about talent, it was her ability to build lasting relationships with clients based on respect and trust. That morning, like any other, Sarah stepped into the Harmony Enterprises building on Park Avenue. Her favorite latte was still steaming, and she nodded to Henry, the security guard who had been there since her early days at the company. Henry smiled, but today his smile seemed forced. Sarah sensed something was off. The office, usually buzzing with morning chatter and laughter, felt stifled. Emily Carter, Sarah's assistant for 10 years, handed her a stack of documents but avoided eye contact. "Thanks, Emily," Sarah said, trying to keep her voice steady. Emily nodded and quickly returned to her desk. As Sarah entered her office, a corner room with a view of New York's skyline, she froze. James Carter, the newly appointed CEO of 8 months, stood at the door. James, 38, was an ambitious young man brought in by the board to refresh the company. His expensive gray suit and smug smile sent a chill down Sarah's spine. "Sarah, we need to talk," James said, his tone icy. He gestured for her to enter her own office, as if she were a guest. Sarah noticed a stranger sitting in the corner, wearing a badge that read Laura Bennett, HR Department. She knew what was coming. Sarah sat at her desk, placed her coffee down, and clasped her hands. James didn't beat around the bush. "The company is changing its strategy, Sarah. We've decided to eliminate your position, effective immediately." His voice was flat, like he was reading a script. "Since you're no longer an employee at the time of bonus payouts, your annual bonus of $450,000 will not be paid. We've prepared a severance package, 4 months' salary, 3 months of continued health insurance, and a 2-year non-compete clause." James's words hit Sarah like bullets, but she showed no emotion. She quickly calculated, the $450,000 bonus was her reward for the most successful year of her career, when she secured a $60 million advertising contract with Nova Media, a major European media conglomerate. That deal not only brought massive revenue but also opened doors for Harmony to penetrate the European market further. The timing of her dismissal wasn't random. James wanted to cut costs and remove people like her, who represented the old way in his eyes. Sarah gave a faint, polite yet enigmatic smile. "I understand. I'll need time to review the severance package." She stood and began packing her personal items. She took a photo of herself with Henri Dubois, Nova Media's director, at his daughter's wedding in Paris 5 years ago. Henri had invited Sarah as family, a sign of deep respect. She also grabbed the 20-year service medal Harmony had awarded her and a ceramic mug inscribed with "World's Best Mom," a Mother's Day gift from her daughter, Lily. James seemed surprised by Sarah's composure. Perhaps he expected anger, tears, or pleading. But Sarah gave him no such satisfaction. She packed her belongings into a cardboard box Laura provided, her movements slow and deliberate. As she left the office, Emily stood at the door, her eyes red. "I'm so sorry, Sarah," she whispered. Sarah placed a hand on Emily's shoulder, smiling reassuringly. Don't worry, Emily. Everything will be fine. Sarah got into her car, placing the box on the passenger seat. She glanced out the window, her eyes lingering on the Harmony building one last time. But in her mind, a plan was already forming. James Carter might think he'd won, but he didn't know he'd just awakened a formidable opponent. Sarah wasn't the type to sit idly by and accept injustice. She had spent 20 years building her career, not just with talent but with patience and strategy. She knew her worth, and she wouldn't let James Carter or anyone else dictate her future. She opened her phone's contact list, scrolling through hundreds of names, executives, investors, and clients she'd worked with over the years. Finally, she stopped at one, Olivia Grant. Olivia, 48, was a renowned venture capitalist in the tech and media industries. She had reached out to Sarah multiple times, proposing a startup collaboration, but Sarah had always declined out of loyalty to Harmony. Now, everything had changed. Sarah dialed. After 2 rings, Olivia's sharp voice answered. Sarah Mitchell. I've been waiting for this call forever. What's up? Sarah got straight to the point. Olivia, I just left Harmony Enterprises. I think it's time we talk about your idea. Olivia laughed loudly. I heard about you and James Carter. He's a fool if he thinks he can replace you. Meet me tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., at the Bean Cafe on 57th Street. I have a proposal you won't be able to refuse. The next morning, Sarah arrived at the cafe on time. Olivia, with her short silver-dyed hair and confident demeanor, was already seated. She cut to the chase. Sarah, I know what happened at Harmony. James Carter thinks he can replace you with a kid like Kevin Lee? He's wrong. And I want to help you prove it. Kevin Lee, 30, was James's new star, tasked with taking over Sarah's European and Asian accounts. Kevin was smart, an MBA graduate from Wharton, but he lacked real-world experience and personal connections with major clients. Sarah had mentored Kevin on a few projects and knew he was better at creating PowerPoint slides than negotiating with seasoned executives like Henri Dubois. Olivia continued, I want to fund you to build a new company, a strategic consulting firm focused on global advertising. With your network, we can dominate the market. She slid a business plan across the table. Sarah flipped through it, her eyes stopping at a figure, $75 million in initial investment, with Sarah holding 60% equity and full operational control. Sarah skimmed the terms, her heart racing but her expression calm. There's one issue, she said. Harmony wants me to sign a 2-year non-compete clause. Olivia laughed, as if she'd anticipated this. They're barring you from working for competing advertising firms. But we're not an advertising firm. We're a strategic consulting firm. Legally distinct. They can't touch you. Sarah nodded, her eyes gleaming. She knew this was her chance not just to reclaim what she'd lost but to build something bigger, stronger. I'm in, she said, shaking Olivia's hand. Let's do this. Just 1 week after meeting Olivia, Sarah's new company, Skyward Strategies, was born. Olivia, with her vast network, helped Sarah secure a luxurious office at the Pinnacle Tower, directly across from Harmony Enterprises. From the 40th floor, Sarah could look straight into her old office, a poetic coincidence. The Pinnacle was a symbol of innovation, and Sarah wanted to send a clear message: she was ready for a new chapter. Sarah quickly assembled a core team, including former Harmony employees overlooked by James. Among them were Michael Nguyen, a data analyst who'd worked under Sarah, and Rachel Lopez, a brilliant content creator relegated to a minor role by James. Sarah also invited Emily Carter to join, but Emily declined, saying she wanted to stay at Harmony to keep an eye on things and relay updates to Sarah. Sarah knew her greatest strength lay in her personal relationships. One of Harmony's biggest clients, Nova Media, led by Henri Dubois, valued trust and respect. Sarah had spent 15 years building a bond with Henri, attending his daughter's wedding in Paris, helping his son get into a prestigious U.S. university, and even sending a gift when his grandchild was born. Henri wasn't just a client, he saw Sarah as a friend. She called Henri from her new office. "Henri, it's Sarah. I have a proposal. I've just started a new company, Skyward Strategies, and I want Nova Media to be our first partner." Henri, with his warm French accent, laughed over the phone. "Sarah, I just had a terrible meeting with that boy, Kevin Lee. He talked about digital transformation and AI optimization but didn't know my daughter's name. I'm flying to New York next week. We need to talk." Sarah smiled, knowing she had Henri in her grasp. But she didn't stop there. She reached out to Aiko Tanaka, CEO of Sakura Group, a Japanese media conglomerate, and Giulia Rossi, head of Bella Moda, an Italian fashion brand. Both were Harmony clients and both expressed frustration with the company's new direction under James. Meanwhile, Sarah and Olivia began crafting Skyward Strategies' vision. They didn't just want to compete with Harmony, they wanted to redefine how the media industry worked. Skyward would focus on personalized consulting, blending modern technology with a deep understanding of clients' cultural and individual needs. Sarah knew that in a world obsessed with data and algorithms, values like trust and respect remained the key. As Sarah built Skyward Strategies, James began to realize his mistake. A week after Sarah's dismissal, Nova Media announced it would not renew its $60 million advertising contract with Harmony. The news was a bombshell, causing Harmony's stock to drop 10% in a single day. Investors started asking questions, and the board summoned James to explain. James tried to salvage the situation by sending Kevin Lee to Paris to meet Henri Dubois. But the meeting was a disaster. Kevin, with his overconfident style, focused on PowerPoint slides filled with charts and tech jargon, unaware that Henri despised impersonal presentations. When Kevin mistakenly used the wrong name for Henry's daughter, Henri stood up and left the meeting without a word. News of Kevin's failure spread quickly within Harmony. Emily, still in touch with Sarah, texted her, "Sarah, James is losing it. Henri just refused to sign." The board called an emergency meeting. "They say if they lose Nova Media, James is out." Sarah read the message and smiled. She didn't need to seek revenge directly. She just needed to do her job well. And she was doing it brilliantly. Meanwhile, Sarah continued to grow Skyward Strategies. She flew to Tokyo to meet Aiko Tanaka of Sakura Group. Aiko, a sharp and elegant woman, had worked with Sarah for 8 years. She greeted Sarah with a warm hug. "Sarah, I heard about what happened at Harmony. James Carter doesn't know what a gem he lost. Tell me about your new company." Sarah pitched Skyward Strategies' vision, emphasizing how the company would help Sakura expand into Southeast Asia by respecting local cultures and crafting tailored campaigns. Aiko nodded, clearly impressed. "I'll present your proposal to the board, but personally, I'm on board. Sakura needs people like you, Sarah." Just 2 weeks later, Sakura Group signed a $45 million contract with Skyward Strategies, officially ending its relationship with Harmony. The news caused Harmony's stock to drop another 8%, and the pressure on James intensified. Within 6 months of her dismissal, Skyward Strategies became a leading advertising consulting firm, with projected revenue of $150 million in its first year. Nova Media, Sakura Group, and Bella Moda all signed long-term contracts with Skyward, praising Sarah's people-first approach. Sarah also expanded into new markets like Southeast Asia and South America, securing deals with companies like Viva Media, Brazil, and Lotus Communications, Thailand. Sarah built a diverse team, combining the experience of former Harmony employees with the energy of young talent. Michael Nguyen developed a proprietary data analytics platform for Skyward, optimizing campaigns without losing the human touch. Rachel Lopez led a content creation team, producing viral campaigns that caught the industry's attention. Meanwhile, Harmony Enterprises spiraled into crisis. James was fired by the board after the company lost 30% of its international market share. Harmony's stock continued to plummet, and the company had to lay off staff to survive. Kevin Lee was demoted to the archives department, a humiliation for someone once seen as James's rising star. Sarah became an icon of resilience. She was invited to speak at global conferences, sharing her story of turning injustice into opportunity. In a speech in Singapore, she said, "Business isn't just about numbers or technology. It's about people, the relationships you build, the trust you foster, and the values you uphold. No one can take that from you unless you let them." A year later, Sarah ran into James at an industry event in Los Angeles. He looked worn, his hair graying, his suit no longer fitting as sharply. James was now a freelance consultant for small startups, a significant step down from his CEO role at Harmony. He forced a smile, but his eyes betrayed unease. "Sarah," James said, his voice slightly trembling. "You've done the impossible. Skyward Strategies, it's impressive. I was wrong to underestimate you." Sarah looked at him, her gaze free of resentment. She had moved past anger long ago. "James, business isn't just about cutting costs or chasing trends. It's about people. If you'd understood that, things might have been different." James bowed his head, saying nothing more. He turned and disappeared into the crowd, but Sarah knew he'd carry that lesson for life. Sarah Mitchell didn't just build a company. She built a legacy, a reminder that no one can take your worth unless you let them. Her journey is a testament to the power of resilience, intelligence, and belief in oneself. Share this story if it inspires you, and don't forget to hit subscribe to see more incredible journeys like this one. Thank you for following Sarah Mitchell's story. If you want to see more stories of resilience, triumph, and life lessons, hit the subscribe button now. Comment below to share your thoughts. What do you think made Sarah succeed? And don't forget to ring the bell to stay notified for our next video. We'll see you next week with a new story.